Welcome to the All Founders Show. I guess it's still the All Founders Show. We have finished our run at Ticker. We committed to 15. We delivered 15 of absolute quality episodes.
You believe it?
I can't believe it. 15 actually over something like, it felt like about 11 years. But it was a very good experience. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We're deciding what we do next. But we have decided to take a little break for a little while. And this is like an All Founders ISO show, so it's a bit more relaxed without the heavy cameras and lights.
And without being relaxed.
Well, we don't know anything about being relaxed, but it's a Friday, I think, and we'll sort of do an end of week review, I guess. I don't know. Have we got any plan? You wanted to talk about a candle.
Yeah, I did. So this week, our friends at Aesop Skincare
Candle Care
released a new product. They released 3 beautiful scented, I assume, candles. And here's the story, Christian.
Tell me. I'm all ears.
The candle's $135 for one candle. Now, that's not the story.
Did you say candle's $130?
Yeah, the candle's $135. So let me just read...
Hasn't got a TV in it?
Some of the comments on the Aesop Instagram page. Okay. Whew. Margaret says, I get that they are made with top quality ingredients, but I have to say I'm a little stunned by the price. Looks amazing, but at $135, it is a little steep. Oh, this guy is outraged.
Outraged.
Why are you charging almost double of what Byredo charges for a candle, though? Why, Aesop? Why? And it goes on and on, right? People are
Similar theme.
Similar theme. People are outraged, disgusted. One of them said, we're in a global pandemic. Aesop, read the room. How dare you charge $135 for a candle?
Well, Racky, can I ask you a question? What do you think is the
anyway.
cause of this consternation?
I don't know, but this is not the first time I've seen it. And there's this weird thing I feel is happening where we've got people, consumers, I suppose, having this belief, this entitlement, this expectation that products...
The magic word, entitlement.
That products like a luxury candle should be available to them at an affordable price. Is that a thing? That's a rant by me, because it's not a thing, and no one is entitled to make a product for you that is fancy and not a necessity that you can afford and that it's within your budget. Like, just don't buy the candle.
Well, like a TV station, you can change a channel at any time. Like a radio, you can change it, and indeed, you don't have to buy the candle. I do not understand the outrage about things like this at all.
Yeah.
I don't understand, like, you just don't buy the candle. It's not a big deal. But it makes me ask the question about value.
Well, that's what the whole point is. Like, someone who's spending the $135 either has lots and lots of money, and so they don't really care where it goes, or that's a lot of money for someone, but they see the value in expending that money on that candle.
To make it very clear, I do not see the value in that candle. How many did you buy?
A couple. No, I haven't bought any, actually.
Okay.
Not yet.
Don't believe you. But that will be changed by the end of the week.
But yeah, the question, the thing about value, it's like, is value objective?
Value is not objective. Well, value is objective in things that are essential, so or big ticket items. I think if you're going to buy a car, you look at the value of. Some might buy it for the brand, some might buy it for all the bits and pieces. So,
but you can't say buying but that's because you value the brand. So then it's not objective.
No, but you might buy for the badge. I'm saying
yes.
Some people buy a car A for the badge, but or another will forget it doesn't matter the badge. They want all the leather seats and the this and that and the other. They might be the same price, but you get a badge. I'm not going to start comparing car brands, but some of them won't have the features of the other one. Some will buy for features, some will buy for brand. But I never understand that. You know, it's same like if it's an alcohol brand, you can buy a $15 whiskey, or you can buy a $1,500 whiskey. And you know, it's all about the brand. Value is in the eye of the beholder, but brand value is how it can be demonstrated. Value is like the emotional attachment to the brand, and I guess the picture that in their head people get attached to a certain brand can be certain value. Now, I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but the thing mostly about what you talked about I don't understand is why people are outraged by a candle.
This is the thing.
Explain to me that, Laura Racky, for goodness sake.
But maybe this is a little microcosm of what's happening in the world, because this constant feedback that companies get from consumers, whether they're actual consumers, because I'm sure that anybody who's... Well, who's really making this comment if they actually buy the stuff, right? So they're just getting this constant feedback. So maybe, like, we're saying this is ridiculous. Like, how dare they?
I'm not saying how dare they. I'm just surprised.
I'm frankly, I don't care if Aesop spends $5 making the candle and then they flog it for 150, 160, 200. Buy it or don't, right? But the question here is maybe, will consumers with this instant public visible feedback erode the capacity for corporations to make these sort of decisions on their own?
Well, I look at that. I agree that is a potential, but I look at the other thing is you can get instant feedback from your social media now that you couldn't get as a brand before, as a brand developer before. That if the market will tell you if your price is right.
Yes.
First of all, you look at your sales. I mean, that's really what matters above all. And this goes for any product. You look at your sales first and you say the market is telling us that we're about right.
Yep.
Or we can introduce another line that is 20% more expensive. Let's test it out. But I personally wouldn't be too swayed by social media. I think that social media is valuable for brand building, but there's a torrent of voluminous abuse and comment that I wouldn't, like you say, they're not your consumers, they're not your brand.
Well, that's right. I mean,
so
how do you you can't actually discern, although maybe you can in some instances these days with all of the CRMs and other machinery sitting behind. It
tells you if they're looking at 8 of your products and then they're also looking at
and they're commenting. Maybe there is a way to know. I know that there is an Australian shoe brand, won't say the name, that has been pushing its new summer season line.
Yep.
And the comments are, there are some sick burns in there. Right? Like, people are saying, like, what are you guys doing? Like, these are really some really ugly shoes.
Oh, really?
And I have seen in the last couple of days this very strong push, and a lot of influencers now are wearing the brand's shoes. So what maybe...
I think that's where their expenditure's going.
Well, okay, you're like, everyone thinks our shoes are ugly. What are we going to do? Let's put them on really beautiful, fashionable people, and we're going to make the ugly thing cool again.
Which happens all the time. There's lots of ugly things that are fashionable.
It's true, like you see something ugly on somebody beautiful and cool, you're like, actually, it's not so bad.
I want to go to there.
Anyway.
Like the urban sombrero.
It was interesting.
It is, I think...
Is it interesting?
No, not even a little bit. But no, the human nature part of it's interesting. But the candle, I mean, let's be honest. Feel free to send us a couple if you see fit.
But, yeah, I think the point is, at the moment, there's the instant feedback. There does seem to be this groundswell that consumers have a voice and they have a say.
Which is excellent, because you can actually ascertain where your brand is at. If you're seeing... If it's 80 or 90 to 10 that is against what your price point or whatever is, and you can get some instant feedback. But I wouldn't change my whole strategy or brand strategy or pricing strategy just based on social media comments.
You can see that, you can tell that we've gone really lo-fi with this episode or whatever we're calling it.
Because we don't care. That's enough. Get away. There's no run sheet. There's 5 words on it.
The run sheet is... handwritten this time. We haven't even typed it up and printed it out.
What are we even talking about next?
What's next, Christian? Tell me what you've been doing this week.
This week I have had the tremendous honour to host, MC, narrative weave, I guess, an annual conference for a very serious business, and they're a fantastic business. And it's been a remarkable experience, mainly because even though I've done a fair bit of the to-camera video virtual stuff, this is a whole of company arrangement, and doing it into the camera without the natural feedback of the human beings in the room is obviously a lot different. And it does take a little bit of practice and I'm doing it a little while now, but it does take a little bit of practice to get used to not having the cues of the human cues and
like this sort of like...
Yeah, and you like, for instance, if like you say, if you've lost a crowd, you can see if their heads are down looking at phones or if their butts are wriggling around in their seats.
How do you know they're not just sort of putting it on mute and making themselves a cup of tea?
I don't.
Just hope.
But you just have to be amazing and engaging and really...
Is there any we're talking about instant feedback, has there been, is it facilitated in a way that the audience can participate?
It is. In this case, we're delivering through Microsoft Teams, which is actually pretty good. It's relatively stable and it's got chat functions and whatnot. So I can see that when there's an explosion of interest in a topic that we can sort of grab onto that. But look, what is interesting is some of the topics we've actually covered. And one of them I think that is I'm really unsure of right now is because we're in Vic and we're basically welded in our houses. Other states in Australia and around the world have got relative levels of freedom. There's a lot of talk, and not just in this but in other places, about the new normal and the future of work and the future of business development and that sort of thing. I'm legitimately on the fence, Laura Racky, as to whether life goes back to normal, let's say a year from now, and maybe we, like all the stuff we're doing now with technology and I'm 100% sure that 90% of people are not going to go back to the office 100% of the time.
Yep.
100, 90, 100. I'm 100% sure of that.
Yep.
But I do wonder if a lot of the things that we're sort of trying to bomb-proof ourselves over with all these technology setups is going to be a little bit of overkill, and everyone's just going to be in pubs and clubs and cafes and doing business the way that they used to do it before.
Well, let's face it.
Not too much.
This is in the history of the world and our lives. This is a very small moment.
It is microscopic.
And we've had our own lifetimes, but lifetimes before us of working in particular ways. And I don't know. I don't know if we are able to shift so significantly so quickly. I think that this has forced us to see that there are other ways that we can work, but I don't think that this is all of a sudden going to turn how we do business on its head. I tell you the one thing that...
Can I, before you go, I think what it's done is the fact that it was forced has taken a lot of the fear out and the risk out of making big changes in... I think if businesses that have had to turn upside down in a day in March this year, and then they've responded and survived, a lot haven't, but a lot have, they are no longer petrified of the potential of change like they might have been a year before.
Well, whether they were afraid of it or not, or they had no choice, maybe that's what you're saying.
The choice is taken out of it, and for a lot of the ones that have thrived and survived or survived, the bottom hasn't fallen out of it, so they're okay. No,
you're right, because if you think of, you know, Joe Blow, who's got 2 kids and wants to do the school run three afternoons a week or whatever, so wants to work from home those days, maybe 6 months ago might have thought bringing that to the boss would be a bit, you know, like, oh, how am I going to be perceived? Am I going to seem not committed? And will my boss think I'm not working as hard as my colleague?
Now the boss is bringing it to them and saying, like, we can cut our floor space by half and we can repurpose our entire working facility. Yeah. Now, there's lots of industries that have to be there 100% of the time and that can't have that flexibility. But I'm of the view that every business that can be flexible will be and should be. And if you want to attract top talent and retain top talent, you're going to have to be. And it's a massive, massive opportunity for companies to get flexible. I'm sorry I interrupted your last thought.
That's okay. Well, I don't think it was... Well, look, it's funny. Like pre-COVID, my view of meetings was that many, many meetings, face-to-face meetings, were unnecessary.
Yes.
I mean, you know me. People who work with me know me. I'm very efficient, maybe brutally efficient. I'm very direct. Don't like to be wishy-washy, right? Let's just get it done. What do we need to do? Yep, right.
This we know.
So to me, to have to head out of the office, schlep to another area to meet people and sit down for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever it is, you know,
before you've even ascertained whether the meeting is a sort of worthwhile one sometimes as well.
Now, again, I'm speaking really generally, and this doesn't mean I totally see the value in face-to-face meetings. Yep. So that was my pre-COVID view, was that there was too many meetings. And it's sort of now tipped into this weird thing that now if you organise a catch-up with anybody, the instant response you get is, will you send the Zoom link or will I? So half of me goes, isn't that great? Because when we are post-COVID, we will have less of those schlepping meetings.
No schlepping.
Because we can see each other. But then the other half of me is, why can't we have a phone call? Why can't we have a phone call? Why do we have to have a video call?
There is a theory that we bring the new technology as it develops, and we just bring our old way of doing things and stuff them into the new technology box,
true.
and that we say, well, this is how we have meetings with 10 people in there, and everyone talks and nothing gets done, nothing executed. So now, instead of having what could be a 15-minute video meeting and it's still an hour and a half and still nothing is resolved.
I suppose maybe my issue, and this is something I've probably identified in the last 2 years, having not realised this about myself for many, many years, is that I like seeing things.
Yes.
And words, really. I actually
you read better than you learn any other way.
I like to see the words,
learn
right?
better reading,
so
yes.
When I am on the phone, I've enjoyed the ability to have the contract in front of me, to look at the talking points that were going backwards and forwards in the email, all of those things. They're not available in a meeting unless you have notes in there.
You have to sit there like...
And when you're on a Zoom, you literally have to be staring at the other person the whole time, because
it's true.
If you do
it's all true.
set up your screen so that it is set like half their face and half the contract, for example, then your eyes are darting between the two, and I suppose the person on the other end thinks that you're not totally engaged in the anyway. It's interesting because we all learn, interact, absorb in different ways. Some people are more oral, some people are more verbal, some people what they say. So anyway, there's no perfect way, but
visual.
It's a funny little thing that I would have relished the ability to do some of the meetings that I've done in the history of my life via Zoom, rather than...
And then you're like, can we just go one step even further back to the phone call? I think this is a good point. I think there's lots of people who... There is Zoom fatigue too. There's a legit Zoom fatigue. I do a fair bit on camera now, like as in on the videos now, and it is exhausting. It's exhausting for me.
Can I just say, I actually think that Christian invented the selfie. So that is...
That's an outrageous accusation.
No, I think he did. I actually saw a photo of you from like the 1980s that you'd done.
Well, I was born in the 1980s.
Anyway, so for Christian to say there's a bit of Zoom fatigue and whatever, like, that's interesting.
Can I look at yourself for so long? However long that is, it's at least a minute longer.
What else are we going to talk about?
I don't know.
Okay.
You have a question. Now, this is something we've talked about a couple of times this week, and it remains unresolved. So, Laura Racky.
Because, well, a little bit because I think you keep taking it deeper or more complicated or whatever than I'm thinking about. I'm going
to do that again today.
I'm thinking about it in a quite binary way. And this is about, you want to get here. Whatever it is in relationships, business, your employment, your education. And we all know that you don't just overnight just wake up over here. There's all these sacrifices you've got to make, and they're a given, yeah? Like time, hard work.
Money often.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But the thing that I'm really interested in, and I think a lot of people, maybe it's a COVID thing, but I feel like a lot of people I've been talking to are sort of having these I don't know, spiritual...
I think it is. I think it is.
Had time to do a bit of navel gazing, which is quite unpleasant but interesting. But how much of your soul or your values or your absolute no-go zones slowly get eroded over time? So from here to here. And
chasing the big one.
Yeah, like... Is it just that you've just got to accept that, like, who I am here, that I'm happy with and that I am not willing to bend on is just going to have to bend? I talk a lot to clients about not sleeping at night.
Yes.
When we say, well, we could do it like this, but you probably won't be able to sleep at night, right? Because there's risk involved, or it wasn't the right thing to do.
Or it's not what we set out to do, and now it's going to be a whole nother...
Right.
Calculation.
Now, some people can just sleep no matter what. They don't give a shit, right? How do you do it?
How do you do it, please?
But, so, that's
so
something...
what's the question?
Is it just a foregone conclusion that you are going to have to lose parts of yourself that you maybe looking back would regret or be disappointed that you had to bend to get to here? So... like we talked earlier about you and I when we were trying to think of examples of this, and it's like, and your example was quite good, that I'm here and I say to my accountant, don't ever do anything dodgy with my tax, because personally I don't believe in dodging the tax office. I only want to file it.
And I won't be able to sleep at night worrying about potentially getting tracked down by the ATO.
And then I have 20 years of business and whatever, and every year my accountant says, oh, you know, Laura, there's this little thing that we can, look, it's a bit grey, there's a bit of risk, it's not illegal, but, right? And every year then you start getting a bit of a taste. Oh, hang on. But last year I only paid whatever tax.
Yeah, where's my big tax bill?
Yeah, like you said, you don't get caught, right? And just slowly, now it's not a great example because it's not something you're actively trying to get to, which is like tax avoidance. But
no, but you think, you're talking about things like ethics, you're talking about things like your morals, you're talking about things like even your sort of centered self, like you.
Who am I? What am I? What makes me tick?
And if you start out, let's say you start, we talked to you about being empathetic. If you start out as an extremely empathetic person, right, that is very giving, that can very quickly get knocked out of you if you start a business and start to grow.
That is exactly right. And the question is that just a reality that you have to accept?
The short answer is a lot of the time, yes, but the longer answer is it depends.
Because I asked you a question this week and you talked about, well, that takes a sacrifice that I don't think you're willing to make.
I did say exactly that.
Did not want to hear that, but...
No, you did not. No, you did not.
But this is what I'm grappling with, right? Like, I want this. I have to do these things. And either I budge on things that I never thought I would budge on, or I don't get the thing.
Correct.
And that's the question. Is this...
So this is all very generic, but if
we're not getting specific.
No, we're not. But you might say you want to start a business selling candles for $130,
yes,
right? And it's probably not a great example, but it's the nearest one that I can grab. But you might be able to sell 50 candles without working too hard, changing your lifestyle, doing too much, right? You've got a supplier that can supply 50.
Yes.
You can package 50 yourself. You can send 50 yourself. You can even drop them off within a 10-kilometre radius of your.
So you can be true to you.
But you don't have to change your life in any way to do that. That is sort of an easy leap. If you then go to 500 from 50, you suddenly can't package them yourself. You have to hire someone. Your supplier has different trade terms because you've got bigger volumes, right? You might have to pay in advance, and there's all sorts of things that you have to change. You might have to take on a little bit of debt. Let's say you go to 5,000.
You might have to push one of your suppliers down in price.
You might have
so
to change
they're going to end up
suppliers.
making less?
That's right. You might have to do things, and every step that you go along, you have to hire 3, 4, 5 people. So the happy-go-lucky person selling 50 candles as a hobby is suddenly selling 5,000 candles, making a lot more money.
Yes.
But with 3 or 4 staff, 2 of whom are marginal, and you're not, and your personal life suffers. You can't be with the house and kids as much. Weekends, all of a sudden, you're working. And you just give up bits and bits and bits. Then suddenly the people that were so important to you, you don't call them for 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 weeks. That becomes 6 months, and all of a sudden, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years down the road, you're not the same person anymore.
Yes.
Right. Now, you didn't have to go to try and sell the 50,000 candles, and then maybe it's not even what you wanted. There's 2 roads there. Maybe you get to 50,000 and you're happier with that person. You're like, well, those people weren't very. I didn't care much about them. I've balanced my home life. There had to be a sacrifice. Everything's good at 50,000 candles, but it might have been 5,000 that was the happy balance.
Yes.
But you go to 50,000. Do you then go to 500,000? And do you just keep chasing forever? Or what if you get to 50,000 and you can't break through and you get frustrated and angry, and then it affects your whole life as well. Like, so all these little junctures, these are micro things that happen. This doesn't happen all at once.
Yes. That's right. I think that's... But there will be points where it's going to smack you in the face and you are going to have a crossroad.
It's usually behind you that it punches you in the back.
Yeah. Because you have, like the frog in the pot, you actually have never faced...
You never did a temperature check.
Well, you never faced the fact that you were actually leaning and bending and changing your values because you're so focused on that end game.
Yeah. But then the alternative is that you don't sacrifice
Yes.
to chase,
Yep.
and then you get frustrated at not achieving it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think that's easy to do, and I think that's probably the conversation that we had with my frustration.
There are prices to pay to do things that we want to do, and sometimes that price is too high, but it doesn't stop you from wanting to do the thing you want to do.
And I suppose that's part of the navel gazing and the learning that we're all doing as human beings in this interesting, rich tapestry of life.
We need to open up this damn economy so people can stop thinking about themselves,
Yes.
is what we're basically saying.
Yes, stop
is
leaving
what
me
we're
with my own
basically
thoughts.
Please stop leaving her with her own thoughts. Well, this is a good first ISO AF show.
I think so. Do you know what I want to talk about as well?
Quickly.
Oh, okay. You know, at the start of all of this, so in the law firm, the start of all of this, the phone calls were about staffing, hospitality and gyms. Obviously, when it wasn't just shut down, there was sort of changes to how they could operate.
Yep.
Then it was all the tenant-landlord issues.
Yes. There's like a timeline.
So that was sort of the first little while
Yes.
in what I was seeing in the business. Middle of it was disputes land. Everyone was at each other's throat. Everyone wanted to sue. People weren't paying, all that sort of fun stuff. I think
And JobKeeper came along.
a lot of anger. Oh no, JobKeeper was in. It was just, I think, a lot, like we're talking about the navel gazing. People had time to focus on things that were probably not as important to their business as the day-to-day growing.
Yep.
When you can't grow, what do you focus on, right? So that was the middle.
That's a good point.
That was happening. But the good news is, and he's hoping that this continues,
Touch wood.
I reckon for the past 4 weeks now, the overwhelming majority of work that is coming through is new deals, growth. A lot of new businesses, which is really exciting for people that maybe they have had time to do the things that they had put off.
Yes, the dream project.
A lot of life admin, but business admin stuff that companies just hadn't cleaned up policies, So
Business activity is what you're saying.
yeah, I feel
This
like
is great.
deals are being signed up that were being sat on for a bit of period, and I'm really excited about that.
That's a very good sign, and I think there is an enormous, certainly Victoria, pent-up demand. There's going to be problems, there's going to be challenges, but there is an enormous pent-up demand. If I was in auto sales, these hotels are going to go ballistic once people can move again.
I'm getting a new car.
It's going to, why not? Get 3.
Josh is giving us a lovely little tax write-off for our equipment purchases and businesses.
And some of the federal government stuff especially, have a good look at that, but there's pent-up demand. There's a lot is going to elastic band snap back. There's other things that won't, and there's going to be restrictions in some areas for a long time, but there is going to be some good news stories in,
I think so,
what could be some other not good news stories.
Especially like hospital. You know what I want to do when I go,
You do?
and I'm not going to do this, but I can dream about it because it just feels good to imagine.
Tell us.
Being in a restaurant or a cafe where anybody else has prepared the meal,
cleaning up,
and they bring it to me, and all I have to do is eat it. And I could even pick the plate up and throw it across. I'm not going to do it.
Maybe we should open a place where you can throw the plates just for a month.
Just throw the plates. And then somebody else cleans the pots.
Oh my goodness.
And the pans and the table.
It's the dream.
And the dishes. And you don't have to think about, you don't even have to go, you don't have to buy the food to prepare.
All right, the producer's telling us we're out of time.
Is that you?
Yes.
Just let me dream a little bit more.
You can dream. You've given us your dream. You can dream in private. This has been a pretty decent first ISO AF.
I think so. This was fun.
We don't have any plan here. We are in hiatus. We're going to enjoy this as much as we can.
And what we would be really interested in this little casual break we're having when we're probably not going to have guests, we don't want to be a surface discussion show, right? So if there's something that you think people don't really talk about,
yeah, man, get it over here. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about anything.
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah,
within reason. After legal.
We can say whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. So send it through.
Yeah, who's going to stop us? Our producer, which is me. Okay, speaking of, thank you very much anyone who's watching. We're doing this for our fan, and I hope you all are enjoying whatever it is that you're doing. That's right. And we'll see you again at some point when we get around to doing another one.